Headlines on global business. Expanding horizons. China is to implement more measures to enhance market access, foster a favorable environment, and simplify visa procedures to attract foreign investment. Negative no more. Japan's central bank ends its negative interest rate policy and raises benchmark rates for the first time in 17 years. And unsung heroes. Today is Global Recycling Day, and we turn our spotlight to South Africa's waste pickers and their valuable contribution to recycling efforts. Welcome to this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Zhu Jufeng in Beijing. President Xi Jinping, also General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, paid an inspection visit to the city of Changde in central China's Hunan province today. He looked at the preparation work being done for the upcoming spring farming season and engaged directly with grain farmers, agricultural technicians, grassroots leaders and villagers. During his visit, he stressed the importance of regional accountability in assuring adequate spring sowing areas, enhancing food management, and securing a sufficient supply of agricultural materials. He called for socialized agricultural services and advocated for high-quality seeds, farming methods, farming machinery, and farmland. She also stressed implementing policies aimed at benefiting and enriching farmers, thereby safeguarding their income from grain cultivation. Now, China State Council has released an action plan reaffirming its commitment to steadily promote high-level opening up and actively attract foreign investment. The plan issued on Tuesday emphasized the crucial role played by foreign investment in facilitating Chinese modernization. To achieve this, the action plan proposes a range of measures, including expanding market access, providing policy support, creating a fair competition environment, streamlining visa procedures for foreign business individuals, and aligning with high-standard international trade rules. For more insights on this latest measure to increase foreign investment into China, we're joined by Mr. Chu Qiang, a fellow at Belt and Road Research Center of Minzu University of China. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Chu. What are some of the key policies that you notice, you think very important, that is introduced today by China State Council to improve business conditions for foreign companies operating in the country?
Well, I think there are many key takeaways, John. I think many of them are really important. I think they've been reiterated for many times. I think this conference really means the central government wants to implement very well these very important conditions. For example, streamlined administration, easy registration for the companies, and very clear market access, a black list and a white list, to let the foreign investors to know which area they will feed the quota or they feed the criteria they can enter. And also very easy access to the capital market, so they can easy come, easy go with their investment and also with their profit. And also, I think there is another one, I think this time has been reiterated to a very high level and with a clear explanation, which is cross-border data transfer. What does that even mean? Sometimes, some foreign-funded companies, they have the branches in China, but they execute in their mother nations. So we have different internet policies in different countries. So sometimes, some foreign companies find it out to, travel the data across the border can be a problem. So I think this time the State Council made it very clear, after the registration, after the search and just report, that you have a very free access to the data and let it flow between the Chinese branches and their HQ, which means sometimes you want to have some, backup data back inside of your own service, back in your own nation. It can be easier done than currently. And also, if you want to have some WhatsApp, you want to have some Zoom meeting, between your China branch and your HQ, and also it can be much easier to do. So that gives us a lot of, space for the further imagination. Probably these kind of policy can be expanded to the further horizon to provide more of the convenience to the foreign travelers, the foreign investors, as well as for the foreign scholars who wants to work in China. So I think this meeting actually, give us a very good, message that is investing in China would be much easier and with more profit.
Right. And we can see that it's clear that Chinese policymakers put a lot of efforts in attracting foreign direct investments, very important in China's economy. Last year, 2023, was a year when the foreign direct investment faced a lot of headwinds. Coming to 2024, what are the current challenges and also opportunities for foreign direct investments in China?
Well, this year's still going to be a very bumpy road. I'm not going to lie about this. Geopolitical conflict has no sign to wrap up for now. And also, I think the monetary environment in the whole world has faced another bumpy, stage. For example, Japan just announced that they have to wrap up their YCC policy, which means the cheap supply of money all over the world will face another tighten up. And we still don't know when U.S. Federal Reserve is going to, loose up their interest rate policies back to normal. Also, I think the end of the year, the election of America will pose a great uncertainty to their economy. But I think still in China, we have many shiny points of our economy. For example, the consumptions, the service sectors, high-tech sectors. This posed very good opportunities for the investors all over the globe with the more opened up policies imposed by the Chinese government.
Thanks for your insight, Professor Chu Qiang. Please stay with us. We have more questions for you later on in the program. The China-Brazil Financial Forum was held in Beijing today. Discussions between the two sides centered on strategies to enhance coordination and cooperation. Our Aaron Liu has more from the Diaoyutai State Guest House in Beijing.
The China-Brazil Financial Forum gathered today to explore the potential for China's high-quality development and extensive global engagement to generate new avenues of opportunities for countries worldwide, with a particular focus on Brazil. Emphasis was placed on deepening practical cooperation in the bilateral financial and economic fields. China has maintained its position as Brazil's largest trading partner for 15 consecutive years.
We are looking at a longer-term perspective and are very interested in developing opportunities here because we believe that it will recover. Economic activity will recover, and China is playing a bigger and bigger role in the world economy. So we understand that, and we are not concerned about that. That's why we're here. And that's why we are coming again in a few weeks to strengthen our ties with Chinese financial institutions, is that we believe the opportunities exist. And we are not distancing ourselves from the market. We're coming closer to this market.
It was proposed to enhance communication and coordination on macroeconomic policies, with China expressing willingness to explore alignment between the Belt and Road Initiative and Brazil's strategy.
Banco do Brasil, now we are working on it to work in renminbi, because nowadays BB Shanghai we work only with dollars and euro. But soon I think that we're gonna have renminbi, and of course if we can work and we can have our relationships, our business only using both currencies, it will decrease the costs and the risks.
I think it was super important, right, about how Brazil and China has common goals and common agreements, strategic interests about developing the next few years, especially this very challenging global environment. So Brazil and China, they share a lot of common interests. I think that was the main message.
Aaron Liu, CGTN, Beijing.
Our reporter Aaron Liu also had a conversation with Tatiana Rosito, Vice Minister of Finance in Brazil. The discussion centered around identifying effective strategies to enhance financial cooperation between the two nations.
As China and Brazil celebrate the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relations, what advancements have been made in the cooperation in finance and economics? What are the future objectives?
During the 10th Subcommittee on Economic and Financial Cooperation, we discussed how best could we deepen financial cooperation. They all see a great potential for investments and new financial instruments that could contribute to the development of new areas such as energy transition, clean energy, for example, green hydrogen, and renewable energy, but also new areas in manufacturing related to energy transition, for example, electric vehicles, batteries. And this goes hand in hand with the implementation in Brazil of the Ecological Transformation Plan, which aims to put in place the right incentives for a decarbonization strategy for decarbonizing our economy, together with increases in productivity and more social inclusiveness.
After more than a year of implementing the Memorandum of Understanding signed in February 2023, how has the renminbi clearing arrangement in Brazil further facilitated bilateral trade and investment?
And one of the main topics has been the use of local currencies, the use of renminbis and real. There is a very high convergence on the fact that there is a great potential for us to continue to develop. Today, the renminbi is the 8th currency more used for foreign exchange payments in Brazil, and it's bound to be the 4th or 5th. We think this also bodes well for the increase in trade and investment between countries. And what is more important is that the financial institutions that are operating in both markets, both in Brazil and China, we heard encourage comments and remarks from the Chinese side in terms of the growth target that has been set and the fact that it represents a very sizable share of global growth. So although China is growing less and is focusing on quality development, but China still accounts for roughly 30% of global growth. So for a country like Brazil and for many other developing countries and emerging markets, given the very important trade and investment flows with China, the strong China growth continues to be very important.
Now, more on China-Brazil cooperation, let's bring back our guest, Mr. Qu Qiang. Mr. Qu, what do you think of the likelihood of China-Brazil using each other's currencies for trade settlement? As one of the Brazilian guests that our reporter just interviewed mentioned about the possibility of settling in each other's currency instead of using dollar or euro.
Well, I think this is not a possibility. It will be a must. Just take a look. China and Brazil are, one of each other's larger trading partners as well, especially for the Brazil. China, for many years, continuously to be the #1 trading partner with Brazil. Chinese products are very popular in Brazil people's daily life, and also made in Brazil has also been very popular among Chinese industries. So the two countries' economy are very complementary to each other. And meanwhile, the size of our economy are rolling up really quickly. For example, last year we have more than $150 billion worth of bilateral trade. And also Brazil side, they export to China $100 billion, which means they have $50 billion trade surplus. So they're building up their foreign reserves denominated by the renminbi in the Central Bank of Brazil. And also, I think another reason we can settle with between each other is that you're buying my things, I'm selling your things. So there's no reason for a country with such a size of a trade, with such a high level of mutual trust, to use a third party of the currencies to trade with each other, which the turbulence of foreign exchange rate will eat up all the profit we're making, and also against the current unstable, international backdrop. Using each other's currency will be much safer and easier. So China currently built lots of infrastructure, for example, digital currency, international wiring system, and also between the two nations, we have already got many channels, not only for the physical products trade, but also for the financial investment. For example, Hong Kong provided many channels for the foreign investors like Brazil to invest in the Chinese financial market, as well as they can do the same thing in the free trade zone in Hainan Island or in the Shanghai Pudong. So I think in the future, we have more multiple channels to support not only the clearing and settlement, but also for both of the country to invest each other, in the bigger size and with more convenience and profit.
Thank you so much for your insights. That's Mr. Qu Qiang from Minzu University. Earlier today, China's biggest commercial bank, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, or ICBC, introduced the Digital Finance Partner Initiative and launched Mobile Banking 9.0 in Beijing. This initiative focuses on 5 key areas: wealth management, comprehensive financing, stimulating consumption, advanced intelligence, and delivering an exceptional user experience.
To cater to the diverse financial needs of individuals, and foster the integration of the digital and real economies, we have achieved significant milestones. Currently, our personal mobile banking user base exceeds 550 million, with over 200 million active users on a monthly basis. Additionally, we have successfully established connections with more than 50,000 ecological partners and provided services to over 10 million small and micro enterprises. The balance of loans for core industries in the digital economy has surpassed 800 billion yuan.
Digital finance is an emerging field that seamlessly incorporates digital technology into the financial sector, making it highly compatible with the digital economy. This innovative form of finance serves as a crucial foundation for driving the development of new and high-quality productive forces.
Move on to some other business headlines we are tracking at this hour. Chinese capital Beijing has become a leading center for innovation and accounts for over 40% of the country's AI talent. According to the mayor of Beijing, the capital city also has one of the highest levels of research and development intensity in the world, accounting for approximately 6% of its GDP. Official data reveals that Shanghai recorded a total of 670 billion yuan in imports and exports during the first 2 months of the year. Notably, the city experienced a 10% year-on-year increase in exports to the Belt and Road partner countries during the same period. And Chinese electronics giant Xiaomi reported an adjusted net profit of 19.3 billion yuan for 2023, marking a significant 126% year-on-year increase. It was the company's second highest net profit since its listing. You're watching Global Business. Coming up next. Negative no more. Japan's central bank ends its negative interest rate policy and raises benchmark rates for the first time in 17 years.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Japan's central bank raises benchmark interest rate Tuesday for the first time in 17 years, ending a long-standing policy of negative rates meant to boost the economy. The short-term rate was raised to a range of 0 to 0.1% from minus 0.1% at a policy meeting that confirmed expectations of a shift away from ultra-lax monetary policy. Analysts believe record wage hikes recently announced by large companies have created the conditions the bank needs to begin phasing out quantitative easing. Chris Gilbert reports from Japan.
For the first time in 17 years, the National Bank says Japan's economy is strong enough to do away with negative rates.
We believe the policy of monetary easing with the yield curve control and negative interest rate has fulfilled its role. With the price stability target of 2%, we will guide the short-term interest rate as a primary policy tool in response to developments in economic activity and prices.
The bank says it will keep monetary conditions accommodative for businesses. Its intention is to reduce the amount of stimulus without choking the supply of cash in the economy. Commentators say this message has encouraged businesses to raise wages, one of the bank's key requisites for beginning to normalize monetary policy. Japan's spring wage negotiations have already produced record pay bumps. Toyota, Japan's largest automaker, has fully accepted workers' demands and offered its largest wage hike since 1999. Honda, Mazda, Nissan and Japan Airlines have all also agreed to record pay increases. Nippon Steel workers will receive a $235 monthly raise after requesting just $200. The markets have also responded well to the bank's messaging. Earlier this month, the Nikkei 225 broke a 34-year record high, reaching above the 40,000 mark for the first time. But economists are warning we don't yet know how markets or consumers will be impacted by the bank's decision.
I think we have to wait because it takes time for the markets to understand what the BOJ did. If they start to think BOJ's, this policy change is quite hawkish, then they may start to, incorporate that. Then yen may start to appreciate. Then, our inflation pressure will be less. So a lot of things are uncertain. So we have to wait.
Economists have likened the Bank of Japan to a large ship in a small pond. Any sudden movements can send shockwaves through the markets, and that this decision comes after months of reassuring businesses that monetary policy will remain accommodative even after an end to negative rates. And analysts do not expect any further upward movement on interest rates from here.
Even with the negative rate lifted, the quantitative easing conditions will not change. Europe and the US will probably enter a cycle of interest rate cuts from this summer, so any further hikes by the Bank of Japan would cut against the grain and have a considerable impact on the exchange rate.
Nagahama-san says the bank's move is more about ending an abnormal policy than a long-term plan to lift rates, leaving the question of what tweaks the banks will make from here and when open to speculation. Chris Gilbert, CGTN, Tokyo.
To get more insights on the BOJ interest rate hikes, let's bring John Gong, a professor at UIBE, for us. Thanks for joining us, Professor Gong. What factors have contributed to this historical uprise of Japanese rates, and I meant to ask what contributed to Japan maintaining negative interest rates for so many years, despite global high rates in recent years?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Junfeng. I think the fundamental reason is that the Japanese economy is performing much better compared to previous years. Demand is coming back. We're starting to see positive growth, and more importantly, of course, is the wage level is starting to rise. That affords the Bank of Japan some room to raise interest rate. I think being in the negative territory for its interest rate, it attaches a stigma to the bank. And I think finally it's crawling out of that hole, and finally it's getting into the positive territory. I think the significance of this is probably more symbolic than of substance. I think it's a very minor interest rate hike, and you reported that the bank doesn't look like it's going to increase rate anymore for the rest of the year.
But Professor Gong, we hear so much about the lost decades in Japan because of deflation, because of unchanged those salaries, but now big companies agree to raise those salaries, and the Bank of Japan has more confidence in raising rates. Does it mean that Japan has more potential to have stronger growth from now on?
Well, I think at least from an international investment perspective, I think the narrative is starting to change. The last decade or the last decades in plural form it is probably behind Japan for the moment. I think Japan all of a sudden is becoming a more investable place for international investors. It's clear that international funds are going back to Japan. You look at the equity market; it's performing very well so far this year. So I think the chance that Japan is going to be continuing to stuck in this last decades or last 2 decades, last 3 decades is probably behind us. I think from now on, Japan's economy is going to start to have some positive growth. But nevertheless, I would still argue that Japan is a very mature, developed country. For economy like that, you're not going to see spectacular growth rates in terms of GDP. I think at most it's going to be maybe better than 2%, 3% growth rate. It's already a tall order for Japanese economy.
Thank you for your insights. That's Professor John Gong for us from the University of International Business and Economics. Today marks Global Recycling Day, a day aimed at creating awareness around the world. A very important part of the recycle plays in preserving primary resources. This year's focus is on those unsung heroes who divert waste from landfills, incinerators and the environment so they can be resold, reused or recycled. In South Africa, waste pickers have emerged as the heroes, but analysts say they're only scratching the surface of a waste problem.
The sun has barely risen, but waste reclaimers are out on the streets of Johannesburg with their trolleys collecting trash from bins. Luyanda Halatshawayo from the African Reclaimers Organization, who started out as a recycler 12 years ago, oversees this group.
We look for recyclable materials that have value, plastics, paper, steel, anything that has value that I can be able to resell, I collect it. An average reclaimer collects about 150 to 200 kilograms a day, traveling distances of about 40 kilometers, 25 to 40 kilometers a day, to and fro. Very strenuous for a job.
Just 10% of the 122 million tons of rubbish generated by South Africans every year is recycled. The rest goes to landfill, which thousands of waste pickers help prevent.
Whatever's missed in the bins, there's guys at the landfill waiting. I call them the last line of defense. We make sure no plastic, anything, goes into the landfill. We've saved the landfills in Johannesburg a lot of lifespan. They were supposed to be closed by now. If all 90,000 of us decided not to collect for a week, all landfills would be closed.
ARO is trying to change the lives of waste pickers with a stable income and better working conditions. Like most, Cecilia Beckwood turned to the informal sector because there were no jobs. She recently joined ARO as a full-time sorter.
In the dam site, we work it's hard because when it rains, we got there. When it's hot, we got there. Here it's different. Here we look difference with the reclaimers in the dam site because here we have a shelter over us and they pay us.
These are the heroes boosting South Africa's recycling rates. Yet there is little regard for the important work done by these men and women.
We've managed to sustain livelihoods through saving the environment. And all that is important for us is to be recognized and not be undermined. Instead of judging us, rather ask. Instead of hooting on the side of the road, why don't you just allow me to pass because I'm carrying your waste? We are fathers, we are mothers. We are trying to provide for our families. So before swearing at us, consider that.
Despite the urgent need to increase recycling rates, South Africa still has a long way to go. Most rubbish is collected through the municipal waste management system and dumped at landfills, which are fast running out of space. Julie Shire, CGTN, South Africa.
With a story of those unsung heroes, we wrap up this edition of Global Business. Thanks for watching. I'm Jennifer in Beijing. CGTN continues with more news and views. Stay with us.